Hello, everyone. It's Sunday once again. Today's actually a special Sunday here in the UK because it's Mothering Sunday today. So happy Mother's Day to all the mothers out there, and also dads who are mothers or aunties who are also mothers. Um, I know in the Philippines we don't celebrate Mother's Day until around May, so we're actually quite lucky being Filipinos living here in the UK because we get so like greeted twice a year. But anyway, yes, anyways, yeah. So happy Mother's Day to all the mothers out there. And it's now 4 o'clock in the afternoon, or just 1 minute to four, in the afternoon in the UK, and it's midnight in the Philippines. I hope some of you are still up because our guest this week is actually amazing. He's a Mank legend, proper Mank. So I'm gonna bring him on the screen now. My dear friends, please welcome Chris Joyce. Yay!
Well,
Hello, Chris. How are you?
I'm good, Anna Maria. Thank you very much. Yes, nice to be here. Thank you
Oh,
for
that's
inviting
good.
me.
Well, thank you so much for saying yes, because I think we tried it last year, and you were a bit really you were busy last year. So I'm really glad that you finally said yes to Ask the Drummer. I also want to just do a bit of shout out to Steph Rose, because I know that she's also looking forward to this episode of Ask the Drummer, because
Excellent.
she's also saying to me, "You've got to have Chris Joyce on the show because he's got loads of stories to tell you." But before we start, can I just clear that you've no relations to the other Mank drumming legend, Mike Joyce?
No, no, no. Just by surname. That's it.
Just a surname.
Correct.
So, yeah, because so like maybe some people so like getting confused. Is it Chris Joyce of the Smiths? Because so like,
Yeah, it's
yeah, so
happened a
it's
few times. Yeah.
yeah. The last time I saw you was after your gig at Night and Day with Pete Wylie and the Mighty War.
Yes.
That was amazing. It
Thank you.
was really, really good. And I believe you'll be hopefully doing more gigs this year.
Well, it's we'll see how Pete's feeling and how he is, and because he's got I don't know how many people are aware, but he's ADHD, and it causes him a lot of problems in getting things organised. And but
Yeah.
he's in great spirits. He's in he's in good health. But we'll see about more gigs this year. I'm not sure if it will
Yeah.
happen yet. I hope so.
Hopefully, yeah, yeah. We're really looking forward.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the
I would
tour
love
we
to
did,
see you.
yeah, the
Yeah,
tour
I
we
would love to
did and
see
the
you
gigs we
again.
did last year were fantastic.
Yeah, yeah. Well, the Night and Day show was absolutely amazing. I really enjoyed that one.
Yeah,
But yeah, we're gonna sort of like start because I know that we've got to sort of like make sure because you're going somewhere. We've got to make sure that we finish early. So welcome to Ask the Drummer, episode 73. It's all about you, Chris Joyce.
wow,
So like I mentioned earlier, you're a proper monk. You're born and raised in Manchester, right?
correct, yes, yeah.
Well, what was it? What was Manchester like when you were growing up?
It was well, kind of like in the sort of this in the 70s when I was a teenager. It was quite a sort of a bleak place, really. It was it was that grey city before, really before it changed really with the 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 essence of the city changed with factory records and the uh, punk movement.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
it brought a lot of movement, a lot of energy into Manchester with people that it was a quite a political time with what was going on with the Thatcher government and everything like that. And there was a lot of people that were unhappy, young, unhappy, angry, and it brought about a big sort of movement in the music and arts. So
yeah,
the creative side of the city reared its head and really hasn't ever looked back since then. So it was quite bleak to start with. I mean, Manchester's always had a big musical history with Northern Soul, with a lot of things that went on in the 60s, with some great clubs, legendary clubs,
yeah, yeah,
places like the Twisted Wheel in Manchester. there was a great venue that I used to go to with friends when we were teenagers called the Hard Rock in Stretford, which was nothing to do with the Hard Rock Cafe. It was the name of
Oh,
a venue in the 70s.
yeah,
It
yeah.
was in Stretford, and I used to live in Chorlton, and we could actually just kind of walk to this venue. I mean, it was a long walk, but I saw some incredible bands there. I saw David Bowie there. I saw Chuck Berry there. I saw people like Slade. A lot of groups used to play there, but it was also
Yeah.
they did club nights there as well. So it was kind of a mixed venue.
So what is it now? What's that Hard
I
Rock?
think now it's a B&Q department store or something like that.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
Yeah. I remember my husband talking to me about telling me about that one. Yeah, he just said it's actually Aiden said it's a great sound picture. Aiden is my tech support, and
Right.
he's my husband. And he said that he did go to the Hard Rock,
Yeah.
and he missed David Bowie at the Hard Rock, and he said it's one of the great regrets of his life. So yeah, it's now B&Q. Oh, no, it said that it's now derelict,
Oh,
and
right.
will soon
Now, yeah.
demolished. Yeah.
Since I've been in that area, so I don't know what it is
Yeah.
now. It was
Well,
quite an incredible venue because it could revolve, so it could. I don't know quite know because I don't know how the design inside out, but you used to be able to have one room where it was all seated, and apparently the venue could turn round, and then it was like open space for club nights as well.
oh, I see. Oh,
Yeah.
wow. Well, I remember because last Friday, we were sort of like me and my husband were going to Sheffield, and we were talking about what it was like in the 70s. Because me originally coming from the Philippines, I've always sort of like imagined Manchester as the music capital. But then I was sort of like saying to him, but then I was all like Joy Division. It started with Joy Division, so like New Order and the Smiths and everything. But we heard Sad Cafe, which is Everyday Hurts, which is a brilliant song. And I was sort of like thinking, when I found out that they're actually from Manchester,
Yeah.
so was the music like that? And so like
it was Sad
early
Cafe
70s.
were from an like just before the punk era, really, and they were like from the more rock pop tradition of the time, and
Yeah.
they came out. There used to be a band in Manchester called Gyro. I don't know if you ever heard of them or remember them. And that's where Paul Rogers, who was the singer in Sad Cafe, was originally in a band called Gyro. And they had this incredible guitarist called Chris Gill, who I think he's still alive and living in Chorlton or somewhere in Manchester now. Oh, Paul Young has died, obviously, but he went on to join a band called the band called Sad Cafe, and they I think their big hit was a song called Black Rose.
The one that we know is Everyday Hurts.
Okay, and also
Yeah.
Black Rose. So you might know that song also.
Yeah.
But they were like, they were much a very 70s kind of rock type of band. Yeah, but and then kind of punk came along just around that sort of time when Sad Cafe were, but they never kind of made it very big or did a crossover into the a very popular side of music.
Yeah. Are you from a musical family?
No, nobody in my family played anything. No.
But is so like drums your first love, or have you tried any other instrument before?
I tried guitar, and I didn't. I just couldn't get it. And then a friend of mine who used to live down the road, he played guitar and he was really good. And we kind of like just got talking one day. We used to hang around together. We used to go to football, and we used to go all to these gigs together. And just being around him, we said, let's form a band. And basically, I got a drum kit, and my parents bought me a drum kit for my birthday when I was 15. And then 3 months later, we were doing gigs. I mean, I couldn't play very well, but we got gigs, and we started just doing like in pubs to start with. And then we started doing like working men's clubs and just like the northern club circuit.
Yeah.
And just really playing rock and roll songs.
Yeah.
And then we started developing and playing more kind of soul type numbers. But just playing in the club scene, maybe we would do 2-3 gigs a week, and
Yeah.
traveling around all of the north of England, in Yorkshire and round the northeast, Newcastle, Sunderland, and we would play. Sometimes we'd go up to the northeast and stay there all week and play shows every night. So it was kind of like, and that's when I was like 16, 17 years old. So really we were just learning to play, learning to go on
Yeah. Yeah.
stages, and learning to, stagecraft.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
did you ask your parents to get you a drum kit, or did they actually just get you one without?
I asked.
Oh, you did ask.
Yes.
And did you go for drumming lessons, or did you just
Yes.
sort of like?
There's a in Chorlton, obviously, I would think,
Oh
yeah.
yeah, yes,
The
yeah,
Irish Club?
yes, yeah. I do.
Right.
Yeah, I
Well,
do know what
well,
that is. Yeah, yeah.
I kind of grew up with the Irish Club because I was from Chorlton and my parents were Irish. So they would
Oh,
always go to the Irish Club. And my dad knew a guy there that used to play drums, and got talking to him, and he uh, gave me a contact. There used to be a music shop on Oxford Road where the Metropolitan University is now, called Stock and Chapman. And Stock and
oh,
Chapman was this huge music shop, but it was more, uh, I think, brass instruments and things like that. They did drums and everything like that, but it was because it
yeah,
also was near the Royal Northern College of Music. But in the basement there was all these different rooms with like somebody teaching piano, somebody teaching saxophone, somebody teaching bass, somebody teaching drums. So
yeah.
I had drum lessons for probably a year or 2 years with a guy called Sean Graham.
Oh, is he still alive, or is he
He
sort of
died
like?
quite young with cancer, so it's
Oh
very sad.
no, sorry.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
So
sorry to hear
I
about that.
wish I'd loved to have, had a longer relationship with him because he was a really nice guy. But he
Yeah.
came more of a sort of a jazz background, so
Oh
it's
right.
quite in the style I was kind of learning at the time. I was going out playing rock and roll music and everything like that, but learning sort of jazz stuff as well, and all the rudimental stuff.
Yeah, yeah. So it was sort of like proper training, not just sort of like listening to records and then trying to copy what they're playing.
Yeah,
And you started a band early, like when you were only like 16 or 17, and I believe it's called Flashback.
correct.
But then this wasn't the band that got you signed by Tony Wilson. I mean, I'm really sort of like surprised that you were managed. Oh, sorry, you were managed by Tony Wilson when you had your second band. So how did that happen?
Well, that's flashback kind of was, we were still like 15, 16, 17, something like that. And then punk came along in 1976. And we decided we didn't want to do any of this, playing rock and roll songs. We didn't want to play the working men's club. We were influenced by punk massively.
Yeah,
And then the band we changed our name to a band called Fast Breeder,
yeah, yeah,
which was the name. It was the name of a nuclear reactor in England called Fast Breeder. And then we met Alan Erasmus, who was Tony Wilson's business partner, who set up
yeah,
Factory Records together. And we met Alan, and Alan likes the band, and Tony and Alan used to come and see the band when we were playing, because we started writing our own songs as well and playing like punk gigs.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
And Tony came along to see the band and was trying to help us out, with getting more gigs and things like that. But as this was
yeah.
going on, me and the guitarist called Dave Rowbottom, got sacked from the band.
Oh, but
Which was good.
not by Tony Wilson. They didn't sack
No,
you, did
no,
they?
we got sacked by the guitarist and the bass player, who wanted to form a band with somebody else. So basically, then me and Dave started the Durutti Column with Vinnie Riley,
Really, rightly.
and then we brought the bass player Tony Bowers, who also then I played with later with Simply Red, and then we brought in, there was a singer called Phil Rainford as well, who now lives in Scotland.
Yeah, yeah.
So yeah, that was the band. Yeah.
Oh wow.
The band was fantastic. It was a Durutti Column, and we did the very first factory sampler, which has Cabaret Voltaire, John Dowie, and I can't remember somebody else on it. There was like
Yeah,
four,
yeah,
the double 45 with
yeah, yeah,
four acts on it, and one of them being the first two tracks from Durutti Column.
yeah. Well, can I ask you then? Yeah, we're talking about punk. Were you at the Sex Pistols gig? That legendary Sex
No, I
Pistols
wasn't.
gig? Like, I think many people sort of like say, "Oh yeah, they were there," but there were actually like only 40 people who attended that gig.
Yeah. I would love to have been there, but no, I didn't. I didn't get to that one.
Yeah. Well, you mentioned the Durutti Column because you formed the band, but it's actually known as Vinnie Riley's and Bruce Mitchell, who's
Yeah,
the
because what happened was the band was the five piece, and we were doing gigs, and we did a lot of gigs with Joy Division in those times, you know, and also they were just starting out, and we did a lot of, it's like a double bill with Durutti Column and Joy Division, and that's when we started the Factory nightclub in Hume as well, which
wow.
was so we did lots of shows together, and
Yeah, yeah.
what happened was we did these first recordings we did. Tony Wilson then went back into the studio and put a different vocalist on the songs without telling the band. And basically everybody left the band except for Vinny. And that's when the Durutti Column continued with Vinny, and then Bruce Mitchell came in.
All right, and that's actually what became the, like, most people know Durutti Column as Vinnie Riley and Bruce Mitchell's band.
Yes.
Obviously, but then after Durutti Column, you actually formed another band, which is I think this is more your band, the Mothmen, as well, because I mean they're all in this sort of like compilation from Cherry Red, this Manchester North of England 7 CD box set. So can you tell us more about the Mothmen? So after Durutti Column.
So for Durutti Column, there was also Dave Robotham, the guy that I mentioned before.
Yeah.
Dave was in Durutti Column, me and Dave, who'd been sacked from Fast Breeder. And we all left Durutti Column along with Tony Bowers, who's the bass player. So there was me, Dave, and Tony. And then Tony used to play with a band called the Albertos, Alberto y los Trios.
With C.B. Lee?
Correct.
Yeah.
So Tony was in that band for a long time and then joined Durutti Column. And then when Durutti Column split up, there was a guy that used to be in the Albertos called Bob Harding, who then came, and we put the Mothmen together with the four-piece. And then we did the first Mothmen album called Pay Attention. And we made that, it was Adrian Sherwood. Do you know Adrian Sherwood?
Yeah, on New Sound. Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
At the time, Adrian he was doing a lot of work with reggae artists, but he didn't have like a live band he could put out on tour, and he wanted an act on the label that was a live band. So the very first album we did, Pay Attention, was for Adrian Sherwood and On New Sound. But what happened was Adrian had a business partner at the time who, I'm not quite sure what happened, but Adrian couldn't afford to pay the studio bill. So the recordings, I think, sat in a studio for about a year before the bill got paid. So sometime after the recording that the record actually got released.
Oh, God. Oh, wow. I mean, these are also like amazing because you were actually there when it was sort of like happening. I mean, like, you know, late 70s, so like early 80s in Manchester. Because I've always been fascinated with the Manchester music scene. But again, of course, for me, it all started with sort of like, I mean, of course, it's the Smiths, but then you found out about New Order and Joy Division. But anyways, going back, because you've been in so many different bands, before your main one, which is Simply Red. But you were also in a Liverpool band called Pink Military with Jane Casey.
Correct. Yes.
So how did that sort of like happen?
Well, again, that's again, it's a connection from the Mothmen because Tony Bowers, who was the bass player, and Bob Harding, they had done a lot of work in recording studios and started. They were good friends with a guy called Roger Eagle in
Oh
Liverpool.
yeah, yeah,
Well, Roger Eagle, he was the guy that started the Twisted Wheel in Manchester, but Roger did gigs all over the north of England. And he set up bass in Liverpool, and it was him and a guy called Pete Fulwell that set up Eric's club in
yeah,
Liverpool.
yeah, yeah.
Tony and Bob started working as producers for some very, young acts doing demos basically. And they did a lot of work in Liverpool for Pete Fulwell, who was Roger Eagle's business partner. So Pete Fulwell used to put these people like Jane Casey, and what happened was Bob and Tony were doing an album with Jane Casey. She was the singer, and the drummer they had wasn't cutting the mustard, shall we say. And basically they said to Pete Fulwell, well, let's get this guy Chris in, who we know we've worked with. And that's when I came and I did all the recordings in Liverpool with Jane Casey on that album, Do Animals Believe in God?
But then, were you still doing the Mothmen at the time? So you're doing the Mothmen and Pink Military?
Yes, I think so. Yeah, because actually, yes, because earlier the times are kind of mixed up because it's a long time ago now. But Mothman and Pink Military actually did some gigs together, but it was a different lineup with Pink Military, and I think it was maybe even before I did the recordings because I didn't know Jane Casey then. So I think that was before, and then later, I met Jane, and I used to go to Liverpool and stay over at Jane Casey's her apartment, and she looked after me, and her and her partner. So I used to go over there a lot. But then Pete Fulwell, who managed Jane, he then wanted me to do lots of sessions in Liverpool. So I did demo sessions with Margie Clark. Do you know Letter from Brezhnev, the film?
Yeah.
Who's in that? She was a singer as well. And
I see. Okay. Yeah.
And also with Holly Johnson, who did Frankie Goes to Hollywood.
Oh, wow.
And there was some other guy as well. So Pete Fulwell used to drive from Liverpool to Manchester, collect me and my drums, drive me back to Liverpool, and I'd spend the day in the recording studio and the night or whatever. And then Pete would take me back to Manchester.
Wow.
And we would do that 3 or 4 days a week for quite a bit of time.
Yeah.
So I got, I did a lot of work in Liverpool at that time because of Pete Fulwell just coming over to get me.
Oh gosh, that's incredible.
And then through Pete, then I got to the gig with Pete Wylie
Pete Wylie.
And so it's now, it was 40 years ago when we did the album. I did with Pete Wylie. And we toured with Story of the Blues. That's when Story of the Blues was in the charts.
Yeah.
I did a big tour with Pete and the band.
Wow. Well, before we continue with Pete Wylie and the Mighty War, I just want to say hello to Noel Failano, who's watching us from the Philippines. Hello, Noel. Thank you for staying up late. And also Carl Henry, the drummer of This Final Frame and Half Man, Half Biscuit.
Cool.
He said that he still got Do Animals Believe in God?
Right.
And he said that's brilliant. So thank you for watching us. Thank you for joining us, Carl. But so before Pete Wylie and the Mighty War, there's another band that's also included in this one that you played drums in. It's called Sons of Arca. Sons of Arca.
Yes.
And that's also sort of like a different style of it's a different genre. So is it more like reggae or
Well,
so like?
it was influenced by reggae and uh, African music and Indian music. So it was like before record stores had a genre called world music. It was a concoction of all these different genres of music. So
Yeah,
the Sons of Arca was influenced in a big way by reggae music and also things like Prince Fela Kuti.
oh yeah, yeah, Afrobeat, Fela Kuti, yeah, yeah,
And
that's right,
all of
yeah,
that. So very much like the Tony Allen style of drumming, but also with like bringing tablas in and using sitar. So
yeah,
it was a real mixture, a real concoction of different world music.
yeah, world music,
Yes. So and that
yeah,
was
yeah.
great. And so I did the very first WOMAD festival. Uh, I think it was in 1982 or something like that in Bath, and that was with the Sons of Arca, and it was fantastic.
Brilliant. And then, of course, so we've talked about Pete Wylie, and you did Story of the Blues with them, which now, 40 years later, you're back with Pete Wylie, and you're doing, you just did a tour of the
Yeah,
UK last
yeah,
year.
yeah.
Um, Incredible. It was just really, really good. But then, of course, we were talking about sort of like no relations to Mike Joyce, but he also did some drumming for Pete Wylie.
Correct.
I
Yeah.
think he did Heart as Big as Liverpool.
Right.
Yeah, that was good as well. So I think with Pete Wylie, he's got sort of like connections with all these sort of like Manchester, not just Liverpool drummers, but he's got connections with Manchester drummers as well.
I think Pete seems to have connections with everybody. He seems
With
to.
everybody.
You mention a name and he goes, he knows them and he knows them really well, and it's a great friend. So
Yeah. Well, I just want to sort of like go through it quickly because I know that we want so like, but so after all that, like with the Mighty One and everything, in 1985, you actually joined, or did you form Simply Red, or were they already a band before you
it was a
came
band
along?
got in. I might be wrong here, but I think it formed about 1984, and there was getting a lot of interest. And the
Yeah.
manager of the band was a guy called Elliot Rashman. And Elliot was a very old friend of mine, and he used to manage the Mothmen at some period as well.
Oh,
Uh,
I see.
so
Yeah.
we all kind of knew each other. And basically, what happened, I think, at the time was there was record company interest in Simply Red at the end of 1984. But the record company basically, and this used to happen a lot, I think, they said, oh, we want a different rhythm section. We don't think the rhythm section is right for this. And me and Tony Bowers had done a lot of work together as a rhythm section with, we'd done we did Sons of Arca stuff together. We did the Mothmen together. We'd done Durutti Column together. So we had a good kind of rhythm section, drum and bass relationship.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Elliot asked us if we'd come along, and I think it was in January. And I knew Mick anyway as well, so that was another thing. And Tony had actually done some work with Mick before Simply Red, so there was another connection there. But in January '85, we went along. We did a rehearsal. It sounded great, and then
Yeah.
we
Yeah.
kind of, from there, it kind of like developed. It progressed very quickly. The band got signed. We went to Holland. We started recording with Stuart Levine, and
Yeah.
basically we kind of rearranged all the songs completely and made it sound a lot more original and not like a kind of club soul band sort of thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
got an originality to it in the recordings. Yeah.
Yeah, because Simply Red became it. You were massive in sort of like those years, like 1985, 90s. The first three albums of Simply Red, like all those sort of like songs that were there, it was just incredible. And I mean, now because of the internet and everybody can sort of like Google it. Mick Hucknall actually was in a band called Frantic Elevators.
Correct.
And did you already know him at that time, or were you already aware of that band?
I didn't know the band, and I didn't know Mick when he was doing that. I got to know Mick before I joined Simply Red. Just I'd seen him around parties in Manchester. So yeah,
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
we could say hello, we could have a chat, but we didn't really know each other particularly.
Yeah. Well, that single, Mine's Too Tight to Mention. I mean, for us in the Philippines, because I didn't actually realize until later on when I found a single of this. It's original by the Valentine Brothers.
Correct.
I found a copy, a 7-inch copy of that single. I was sort of like thinking, is this the same one as the Simpler Red? So like Mine's Too Tight to Mention. And it's actually, it was that one. And the funny thing is, it was only released in 1982. But then your version was released in 1985. So was it sort of like a conscious sort of like thing that you were gonna do a cover,
I
a
think
cover version? Or
it was just a strong song, and it was like the Valentine Brothers recording is a fantastic recording as well. It's a great version of it.
yeah,
Uh,
yeah,
and we were doing in Simply Red. We did, as well as the original material, we did a few different covers. Like we did a cover of a
if you,
Talking Head song,
yeah, yeah, and
and we kind of did it a different treatment, a different approach to it.
yeah,
Uh, so it was just kind of a nod to influences, really. And I think with that Money's Too Tight, it was probably, and I might be wrong here, but probably the record company thought that would make a good single. I'm not quite
oh,
sure. And
yeah, yeah.
I wasn't involved in making those decisions.
Well, so with Simpler Red, you toured all over the world
Yeah.
because it was just really, really massive. And so which part of the world would you say is your favorite? So like when you were with Simpler Red, and what made it special for you?
The whole thing was special. It was, because I'd worked a long time as a working musician, and for that level of success, it's very rare. So, I never kind of took it for granted. It was real. It was a real honor, and
Yeah,
I loved it all because I got to travel. I was doing a job that I wanted to do. I was getting paid for it. You know,
yeah,
and all the countries that we went to. I mean, if I had a few, Italy was a country that I discovered and I really loved, and I've got many Italian friends now. We've remained friends from, 1985 with some people
yeah, yeah,
that I'm still friends with now. Uh, Places like Brazil was an incredible place. I loved playing there. We did the Rock in Rio festival, and that was a great occasion. But even a place like going to Iceland, it's like wow, something
yeah,
you're not gonna think, oh, I'll go for a holiday in Iceland. And again, when you're on tour, say like touring America in the back of a bus, often you play somewhere, you leave that night, you travel overnight in a bus, you arrive somewhere in the morning, you sleep in the day, and you don't see a lot of the city or the town you're in, but it
yeah,
was
yeah.
it was just an experience, a great experience. So
Did you
yeah,
go to Asia? Did you do sort of like Japan or the Philippines
yeah.
or?
I went to Japan twice, and that was part of an Australasia tour doing Japan, Australia,
Yeah.
New Zealand as well.
Wow.
So I
And
did that a couple of times.
you must be really proud of being in Simpler Red, because I know I was saying this to my husband earlier that I don't know what it is, but I think there's quite a lot of memes nowadays that you see with sort of like Mick Hucknall and things, and sometimes it makes you think that it's not cool to like Simply Red anymore, or so like people say to you, "Oh, why do you like that?" But I've always loved Simply Red.
Yeah.
And I mean, you being the drummer on the first three albums, you must be really proud of being,
Yeah,
being
because
part of it.
I think those songs are probably some of the best that Simply Red did as well. And I think,
Yeah.
some of the best recordings as well, if I'm honest about it. But I would say that.
but you leave in, is it 1991 that you left, or
No,
did
there was that,
what happened?
that's another story altogether. And I don't
Oh,
want.
right. Okay.
No, I didn't leave. I was more or less replaced by a programmer.
Oh, I see. Because I love the first three albums, but I also love Stars. I think Stars in the Philippines is I know because I mean I already left the Philippines in 1991. I was in the Middle East, and Stars was really, that was big in the Middle East at the time, and I know that in the Philippines that was big as well. But and I loved that one. So it's a shame that you're not part of that.
Well, I did all the
Album.
demos for it, so all the drum parts, I had done them originally,
Oh,
all
wow.
the ideas, but that getting then got changed with programming.
Oh, oh, shame. Oh, so I didn't know that one. But
Mm.
yeah, so in 1991, you didn't do much when I sort of like Googled you, of course. So you didn't do a lot of drumming between 1991 and
No, I
was it
stopped drumming.
2000?
I stopped drumming for quite a while, probably about 10 years.
Was
Uh,
it because of not being in Simply Red anymore?
yeah, it was a big knock to my confidence.
Oh, I
And
see.
then what I did, I set up a recording studio and a record label in Manchester.
Yeah,
Then
yeah.
I did, have you ever heard of a singer called Rachel McFarlane?
Yeah,
Loveland.
yes.
That was
Yeah, yeah.
which was a massive record. Well, I managed Rachel for a while, and I did other things. Did a lot of work with DJs and the recording studio. I had a dance label at the time, and we did some great recordings with artists that are still around today. People Parks and Wilson. Don't know if you know them
Yeah.
from Coventry. Uh, but no, I stopped drumming for quite a while, and it was only 10, 12 years after that I started playing again. Uh,
Wow.
and then that's when I met Steph Rose and her sister Sammy. So
Yeah.
Steph has got a twin sister,
All right. Yeah, yeah, yeah. And
and
then
we
you
got
formed the band with her?
the Sylvias,
Oh, I
and
see.
Johnny, who was in DoveTales, was also in the Sylvias.
All right. So this is like early DoveTales.
But
So it's all like
it was before DoveTales. Yes, it was before DoveTales. And
yeah,
then
yeah,
and that band we did gigs, we did some festivals. We never kind of toured, and we never really got to release any records. And there was just issues with management, and that really is what split the band up.
so is it sort of like the same music style as DoveTales? So like an
Similar, yes,
indie?
because it was
Yeah.
involved Sammy and Steph, being sisters. The harmonies they could do were incredible. They were just so intuitive with their voices. And
Yeah, yeah.
Sammy played bass, and she was a really melodic, beautiful bass player.
Right. And then but then you carried on, so like a few years later, and then you started another band and you called it DoveTales, but
Correct.
without Sammy.
Yes,
It
because
was
Sammy didn't want
Victor.
to do any more music with the band then, and so what happened is Johnny had got in touch with everybody and just said, he'd been listening to the Sylvias and saying this is fantastic music.
Yeah.
So we basically, me, Johnny, and Steph, we had a lunch and said, right, let's try and do something together. So that's when we started DoveTales.
Yeah. Well, I remember sort of like going to your gig at the Eagle Inn, I think it's called
In Eagle, yeah, in Salford.
in Salford. Um the reason why I actually went there is because a friend of mine, Dickie, I hope Dickie's watching, he told me that Gaz Whelan is gonna be performing there, opening for this sort like DoveTales. And because I love drummers and I love Happy Mondays as well, I said to him, "Oh, I might as well go and see it." And what I remember from that night, I actually got lost because because Eagle Inn is not an easy place to
No,
sort like
very
get.
hard to find it. Yes.
So that's what I remember. And I remember there's two guys from, they told me they're from Swinton, and then they helped me. They said, "This is where you need to go." So, like, but it was really, really good. I really enjoyed that gig. And then when I found out that you're playing in Liverpool at Pass Street Studio,
Yes.
I went there as well to see you. And sadly, Pass Street's not there anymore.
No, it's
So
not.
just
Yeah.
really, really sad. So, do you think there'll be more DoveTales or like
I would like
gigs
to
or
think
maybe?
so. I honestly don't know, to be honest, Anna Maria. I would love there to be, because it was great
Yeah,
music. You know, Johnny and Steph could both write really good songs. So we'll see. I would never say never.
yeah. Well, before I actually ask you, because I know that you're a drum tutor and
Yes.
you have been for a few years now, but I also saw on Facebook there's a photograph of you learning. Is it Muay Thai? How, I don't really know, but it's how. Yeah,
Muay Thai, boxing. Yes.
boxing. Yeah. Did you live in Thailand during those times? Are you not
No, no, no.
drumming?
I did Muay Thai for 30 years in Manchester with a guy called Master A, who's in Thomas Street in the Northern Quarter. But
Yeah,
I originally started with his brother, Master Toddy, in 1986, who used to have a gym on Newton Street in the centre. But then Master A became a very good friend of mine, and he used to take a lot of his students over to Thailand, and he had a floating gymnasium on a lake there, and we would go over there and train on this floating gymnasium, and there was like 10 bedrooms above the place, and then we
yeah,
would go around. He would take us around different parts of Thailand as tourists, you know, but it was great to
yeah,
be with
yeah.
all the boxers as well. So I did it just, you know, I didn't do competition, but some of the guys that we were traveling with, they were world champions. They were fantastic.
Were you recognized? Did you get recognized there in Thailand? Or like, because I
No,
think there's one photograph there that says he's the drummer of Simply Red or something like that.
no, I don't think anybody recognized me.
No. Well, there's also like you were in Italy and you were also involved in a couple of bands there in Italy as well,
Yeah,
weren't you? And but you weren't sort of like playing as, you weren't the drummer, but he's the like percussionist.
you're correct.
This
Yeah.
is one thing that I've always sort of like wanted to ask, because is it true that all percussionists can do drum? Like, all percussionists are drummers, but not all drummers are percussionists or something. Is that right? Or
I wouldn't say so. No, I think. I mean, from my experience, everybody thinks they're a drummer anyway. Everybody thinks, "Oh, I can get on the drums and play them," you know. So there's a friend of mine. He said, you know, if there's 16 musicians in a band, 17 of them can think they're drummers. It's a strange expression, but you know, there's playing drums and there's playing drums, and you know, percussion is, you know, playing like congas or bongos, or even just playing a tambourine properly.
yeah,
It's a skill. It's incredible when you see somebody who's really just worked hard on learning and practicing tambourine skills. You know, I mean, when we did the Simply Red album, New Flame, we brought a percussionist in called Lenny Castro, who's, you know, he's world famous percussionist, and he was just watching him play a tambourine. It was like, I was like, it was incredible. But you know, be able to play all those different things like congas, like I say, or even just playing a
yeah,
shaker nicely, you
yeah,
know, making it sound good.
yeah.
It's a real skill in itself. But no, they're not. I wouldn't say they're all drummers, percussionists.
So, but would you say that one is actually more skilled as the other, or is it
No,
just sort of
no,
like a different?
no, it's
No.
just different. It's like saying, you know, a guitarist is more skilled than a piano player. It's not. It's just different.
It's just sort of like different, yeah. Because I know what you mean about a tambourine. Someone gave me a tambourine, and so like it's not easy. You'd think you just sort of like shake it, but it's not really.
Yeah.
It's not as simple as just shaking.
Yeah, I mean, if you watch some of the gospel singers when they play it, there's all different styles of playing tambourine as well, and it's just
Yeah.
it takes skill, it takes practice.
Yeah. Well, I've got a question here for you quickly as well from Heather. She said, "Hi, Chris. Can you play xylophone?"
No, I can't. I'd love to play tune percussion, but I don't.
Oh, okay. Right. So yeah, you don't play. So can we talk briefly about your being a drum tutor? Because I know it's nearly time now. So if anyone wants to sort of like get in touch with you and learn how to play the drums properly, like you did, because you went and had, drumming lessons. What would be the best way of sort of like contacting you?
Well, I've got a website. It's chrisjoycedrums.com.
And that's the one with the logo, which is on your Facebook.
Yes.
Yeah, that's a brilliant logo. That.
And there's a link. If you go to the Facebook page, there'll be a link there that'll take you through to the website as well. And people can then message me through the website, and I'll get in touch with them. And I have when COVID happened and we were all kind of locked in our houses, I set up a very elaborate system of being able to do drum lessons online as well. So I could do drum lessons on Zoom, and I teach people in different parts of the world now because I've got like a setup where I have a camera facing my face, I have a camera on my hands, I've got cameras on my feet, and I've got an overhead camera. So I can do really quite comprehensive lessons to show people how to learn to play. And I had some people who'd never played drums before that learned with me through Zoom, doing lessons online. Yeah. So I can, depending, even if somebody's not in England and can't come to me personally for lessons, we can do them online.
You can, yeah. Well, what I'll do is on the Ask Drummer page, I'm gonna post the link to your website as well,
cool.
So people, if you want to, And also, I mean, these are just quick questions actually. When you teach how to play, do you twirl? Do you tell people they do this thing with the drumstick?
I always tell them to learn to play drums before they start worrying about twirling drumsticks. I'm very old-fashioned like that. They can do that, especially if they don't practice enough. I'm very happy.
Well, do you do that though when you're playing? Do you twirl?
Not when I'm playing. If I'm messing about, I can do it a little bit.
And you can do it, yeah.
I think if I did it when I was on stage, I'd probably drop the bloody stick. I'd look like an idiot. I don't want to do that.
Well, do you have any drumming heroes?
Yes, I've got, lots of drummers. I mean, one of my first heroes was like, well, two was like Charlie Watts when I was growing up with the Rolling Stones, Ringo Starr, because, that was when I was like a young kid. And then later on, Keith Moon. And then I've got into people like I mentioned before, Tony Allen, who played with Fela Kuti.
Yeah.
And people like loads of jazz drummers, Art Blakey, Jimmy Cobb, who did lots of recordings with Miles Davis, a guy called Danny Richmond, who played with Charlie Mingus, Elvin Jones, Philly Joe Jones, Papa Joe Jones. The list is long. As my wife says, I don't have favorites. I have a lot of influences and lots of it's just like, it's like comparing apples and oranges. It's just different styles.
What about Mike Joyce?
Mike Joyce is a great drummer. Yeah. I mean, those records he did with the Smiths were fantastic.
He is amazing. And finally, just advice you'd like to give to sort of like aspiring drummers out there, or aspiring musicians out there.
Practice.
Oh,
I have a phrase with my students, the 3 Ps: practice, perseverance, and patience.
Oh, wow. Yeah, That's good. Practice perseverance and patience. Awesome. That's really really good advice. That.
Enjoy the
Well,
journey.
yeah. Well, thank you so much. I know it's all like I've actually, my script has got so many questions I still wanted to ask you, but
Listen,
I
like
know,
I said, we could do this another time. I'm happy.
yeah, we can do sort of like a part two with
Yeah,
Chris Joyce. So we've sort of like asking about all those sort of like bands that you were in anyway. So
good.
hopefully we'll get to see you again, either with DoveTales or with Pete Wylie in the Mighty War. So is there anything that you wanted to just say to our viewers and to our friends?
I'll just well, thank you for inviting me on, and thank you
Oh,
for the
thank you.
people that have spent the time to watch and listen to this. It's an honor and a pleasure that anybody's even interested. So thank you.
Oh, no, thank you. You're a legend, a man legend. I'm so glad that I finally got to sort of like have a chat with you. So thank you so much, Chris.
Thank you.
And enjoy the rest of the weekend and hopefully see you again soon.
I hope so. Thank you very much.
Okay. All
Okay.
right. Bye for now.
Bye bye.
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 Bye. Oh, God. That was just really, really good. And like Aiden said, it's very, very interesting because Aiden, of course, he's from Manchester and I think he's aware of all these sort of like what was happening in those days in the 70s because more Aiden is more or less the same age, I think. As Chris Joyce, but anyways, thank you all so much, and once again, so happy Mother's Day to all the lovely people, mothers, fathers, aunties, everywhere. So hopefully, I'm not sure if I'm gonna be back next week because I'm going to Glasgow next week, and hopefully I will be doing another episode either on a Monday or a Tuesday. But I'll be posting it on the Ask the Drummer page anyway. So please do keep an eye out for any guest announcement post for next week. But if not, I'll be definitely coming back in April. So enjoy the rest of your weekend. And in Manila, happy Monday. Happy Monday to you all because I know it's a brand new week there in Manila now. So thank you all so much and see you all hopefully next week. Bye for now. Bye.